Warning, this content may be upsetting or disturbing to some audiences. At any moment a nearby star could possibly become a gamma-ray burster and destroy the Earth. What's a very disturbing fact almost nobody knows? Organophosphates, including the chemical weapon sarin gas, work by inhibiting your muscles' ability to relax. Your muscles basically constrict and can't unconstrict, causing what feels like a muscle cramp through your entire body, your arms, your chest, your eyes, your tongue, everything. It most frequently kills via asphyxiation, because you can't exhale. Surviving means a permanent, irrecoverable loss of motor function, even with rapid medical treatment. Due to fresh drinking water being so scarce on the Galapagos Islands, some bird species, such as the Galapagos hawk, have adapted by drinking the blood of other animals. Wild cats get most of their moisture from their prey and rarely drink water. According to the FBI, over 40% of murders go unsolved. Meaning if you get killed, there's a pretty good chance the person who killed you will not spend a day in jail. I think about the likelihood of a murder being solved in the small town where I live sometimes. For example, say when 911 gets called after the discovery, it's not going to be some TV CSI scene where the detective is like, "Ah. But what do I see here? This hair is from a rare breed of Mexican cat that's only sold as one exotic breed pet shop," and then they go on to check sale records and track down the killer. Here, it would be more like, our one and only, fat cop shows up after about an hour or so, and just sort of bumbles around contaminating the hell out of any possible evidence, not doing any good at all. And if by chance a larger department actually stepped in to do some investigating, the scene would be garbage. I could murder all day. A toddler's adult teeth are right below their eyes. I just looked up a picture of a toddler's skull and all I gotta say is what the actual hell. Later in life bone fills that area in. The bones growing are what push the adult teeth down and into the mouth. The Romans used to torture people by having goats lick their feet. Goats like salt, so they would soak their feet in salt water. Eventually the goat's tongue was rough enough that the skin would wear away, then you'd have a wound with salt trickling in. It used to be believed that babies as old as 15 months couldn't feel pain. As a result, doctors would perform surgery without anesthesia. Doctors used muscle relaxants on the infants to prevent squirming, essentially paralyzing the babies for the duration of the procedure. How long ago was this? Reports indicate that this continued up until the 1980s. The dolphin who played Flipper committed suicide. Kathy, a bottlenose dolphin, passed away in 1970 in her trainer Richard O'Barry's arms. She swam toward him and finally sunk to the bottom of the tank. At the end of her career, Kathy was put into a small, isolated tank at the Miami Sea Aquarium where many believe she was depressed. O'Barry firmly believes that Kathy had committed suicide. It's pretty easy to create false memories. This is why memories brought back through therapeutic hypnosis treatments, in attempt to uncover how the patient experienced trauma, don't hold up in court. Your mind can just make up something that never happened or didn't happen quite how you remember. There's a really interesting study where scientists basically coerced people into remembering things that never happened to them. If I can find, I'll link it. A vitamin D deficiency can make you suicidal, and deficiencies among adults is very common. Like more than 50% of the population in the US. My vitamin D number was single digit when I went to see my doctor because I felt depressed. I now take a big weekly dose along with diet change and sunlight to feel normal. If I hadn't gone to the doctor when I did, I might not have been able to face another winter. Approximately 2,100 children are reported missing every day in the US, or one every 41 seconds. On the bright side, most will be returned unharmed. On the bleak side, the survival rate very rapidly declines over time. On the even bleaker side, in the cases of missing young adult men in the US, there's fair chance a missing individual will be ruled deceased after a rather short search with minimal evidence. Even if no body is found, generally it's labeled as deceased due to natural causes, i.e. drowning in any nearby source of water, getting lost in any nearby woods, just getting lost anywhere and dying. After which the search is completely abandoned. When a woman with breast implants is cremated, the implants will melt into goo. It drips to the bottom of the furnace, and needs to be cleaned up once cooled. While pacemakers have to be removed and metal implants just stay in and get tossed after. At any moment a nearby star could possibly become a gamma-ray burster, and point a jet of radiation at the Earth that would vaporize us instantly. Math says a gamma-ray burster located 100 light-years away, that aimed at us directly would generate the energy of 100 Hiroshima bombs per square mile across the entire exposed surface of the Earth. Anything caught in this blast directly would be vaporized instantly. It would also instantly boil the oceans and rip the atmosphere off the planet. It would end all life and leave the Earth a charred cinder in space. And it is 100% impossible to see one coming, since it's moving at the speed of light, because gamma rays are light. In child porn cases, someone has to actually watch the video beginning to end so they can testify about it in court to seal a conviction. A friend of mine works for the federal government and his job each day is to watch child pornography so that they can prove that the person was in fact creating or distributing child porn. It's a messed up job. He has to do evaluations every once in a while to make sure he's still fit. He does say that statistically most people in the position only last 3 years. They get paid horribly to do this job, so there's not much incentive to stay. I know for him each time they catch a person makes it very well worth it for him. On average, 30 people die in the US annually in elevator-related incidents. If you really want to lose sleep at night, consider elevators at Houston's St. Joseph Hospital, which have a history of injuring people, including decapitation of one surgical resident in 2003. As Nikaido stepped onto the elevator, the doors closed, pinning his shoulders. He tried to pull back and he couldn't. The doors wouldn't open. She wasn't able to find the door open button before the elevator started moving upward. When you get on an elevator, if it closes on you, it's supposed to open back up, she told officers. There wasn't any of that. There was no hesitation. The doors shut and it went. Nikaido struggled, trying to shrug out of the elevator, or possibly pull himself inside, she said, but the elevator kept moving upward. The ceiling sliced off most of his head. His left ear, lower lip, teeth and jaw were still attached to his body, which fell to the bottom of the elevator shaft, as the elevator continued moving upward. Encephalitis lethargica causes you to slowly survive, but not live. After bouts of deep sleep, where patients can be woken very easily, but fall immediately back into the deep sleep, they're left with post-encephalitis symptoms. The main one being that their minds are fully aware and conscious, but they can't physically function, a bit like locked-in syndrome, and they display extreme apathy. They even know they're displaying apathy but can't express any emotions. So they're completely stuck, until someone throws a ball at them, which they then can immediately catch. Or until someone holds their hand and walks alongside them, then they can suddenly walk. Otherwise nothing. So bizarre. You are more likely to die on your way to buy a lottery ticket than you are to win the lottery. If you went out right now to get a ticket, you're more likely to die en route than to buy the winning ticket, as the number of people who died en route to get a ticket is most likely higher than the number of winners. Non-avian dinosaurs did not go extinct immediately at the asteroid strike. There would have been a period when the survivors kept on, slowly declining in number, starving to death before being able to mate and produce offspring. Too bad they couldn't have hung around long enough to catch a ride on the Ark. Bayer, the pharmaceutical company, used to be called IG Farben, and were the ones who produced that Zyklon B chemical the Nazis used in the gas chambers of the concentration camps. Heroin was also a brand name trademarked by Bayer. It was supposed to be a cough suppressant. In the 80s, Bayer discovered that a large portion of their U.S. plasma stockpile was contaminated with HIV. They were ordered to destroy it. Instead, they shipped it overseas to Asia, Africa, Europe and the Middle East and sold it. This resulted in at least 10,000 new direct cases of HIV. That is in addition to the 8,000 new cases in the US and Canada that spring before the contamination was discovered. When asked why they didn't destroy the stockpile, they said that patients don't trust the new medicine and there wasn't enough new medicine to go around, so they had to sell the old stuff. There's over 200 frozen dead bodies on Mount Everest and they're used as waypoints for other climbers. And human waste. There's so much human waste from people climbing Everest that it's tainted the local water supply of villages at the base of the mountain. Then there's that vegan woman Maria Stridham, who wanted to prove she could do it without meat in her diet. She died on the attempt. If you get bitten by a human, you absolutely have to go to the hospital right away because the amount of deadly bacteria in any given person's mouth could actually kill you if it enters your bloodstream. I had a friend who was bitten by a crackhead and he didn't get to the hospital soon enough, so he ended up with many of his organs shutting down due to sepsis. By the way, the average adult male has a biting force high enough to rip someone's throat out with their teeth. As recently as the early 1800s, people ate parts of corpses, believing them to have medicinal properties. Blood, power ground up from the human skull, and human fat were all thought to be cures for various ailments. Arguably, it still goes on today, with the practice of consuming placenta for its dubious health benefits. There was a fad for eating mummies. It turns out that there's a limited supply of mummies, so people started making mummies for other people to eat. If you were to put the entire lifespan of the universe, from the Big Bang to the final heat death, onto a 24-hour clock, at the universe's current age we would not have reached the end of the first 30 seconds. If you were to go into the far future, past the point where there are no more solar systems, the planets have either been destroyed or become rogue planets, where there are no more galaxies, everything either being swallowed up by black holes or being ejected from the galaxy. No more anything of normal matter due to proton decay, and no more black holes due to Hawking radiation. Even here at this point, you would not have reached 12 o'clock on our universe clock. The universe will spend most of its life as a dark, cold, empty void. You would be unlikely to find a single surviving subatomic particle in an area the size of the current observable universe, until the background temperature reaches 0 Kelvin, at which time becomes meaningless in the universe. The first face transplant was for an 8-year-old girl named Sandeep Kaur, who got her entire face ripped off by getting her hair caught in a thresher in 1994. The parents came in with her face in 2 pieces in a plastic bag. The transplant was a success, and the girl grew up into studying medicine. And if you've ever wondered what a face torn off looks like, they have photos of it that aren't bloody, but very disturbing. Even if there are intelligent aliens, the universe is so massive and vast that due to the speed of light and physical limits the human race will most likely die alone. As a cancer researcher, I was fascinated to learn that the most common cancer is lung cancer. The majority of the patients were, of course, smokers. But that's not the worst part. The second biggest cause was second-hand smoking, usually from a close relative or spouse who is a smoker. So millions of people are unknowingly leading their relatives, children and spouse towards death because of their smoking habits. Minimum wage in Venezuela is $6.70 a month. That means that I, who don't have a particularly high salary where I live, Sweden, make about 5 Venezuelan monthly minimum wages per hour I work. Every day I work, I make about 40 Venezuelan months of pay. That's 3.33 yearly Venezuelan minimum wage salaries, for every day I work. And that said, the minimum wage in Venezuela was recently raised by over 300%. It was around $2 per month not long ago. So not long ago, I made about 11.4 yearly Venezuelan minimum wages each day I worked. In the 70s, Ford did a cost-benefit analysis and determined that their defective Pinto model would cause approximately 180 deaths, 180 injuries, and 2,100 damaged cars. They estimated the cost of lawsuits and vehicle repairs to be $49.5 million. On the other hand, they determined it would cost them $11 per car, $137 million, to fix the defect in the car to make it safer. Guess what they did? Yeah, they decided, what's 180 human lives compared to more money? Screw 'em. And boy, did they pay for it. The whole situation blew up, no pun intended, further than they expected, becoming a huge ordeal for the company. What's really sad is reading about some of the victims of the Pinto and their terrible deaths. Thanks for listening to Radio TTS. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell for more disturbing facts that keep you awake at night. Find the Reddit facts playlist in the video description below. And do not Google the face of Sandeep Kaur. And please support Radio TTS on Amazon, with the link in the video description.